We are at the surface of a very big porphyry copper system.
Christina McCarthy here with Barksdale Resources. I'm joined with our CEO, William Wulftange. We wanted to give you guys an update on what our past drill results have just meant, give you the so what of what everything means, and give you an update of what's to come in our future exploration programs. Arizona accounts for nearly 70% of the total production from the USA. And when you think about these areas where you want to be drilling and the areas that are more favorable to actually make discoveries, I think that we're in it at Sunnyside. We wanted to get the 67.5% ownership of this property. And the thought was drilling for footage, not necessarily for a copper discovery. And so when we drilled this last round of holes, the first few holes ended up actually being some high-grade copper mineralization, as you saw in our May 2026 press release. And I think that this has been a really good geological and technical exercise to be able to vector into some of these zones that are ideal for future drill targets.
On our first holes, we hit broad zones of high-grade, truly high-grade, 0.9%, 0.93%. Copper mineralization. It was fantastic, and our goal then became, once we made those discoveries and confirmation drills, let's see if we can expand this out. And the drilling that we did looks like we've gathered information for mostly minerals associated with at the top of this large porphyry copper system. I've taken the liberty of kind of putting a plan view map of where the drill hole locations are, the directions they were drilling, and then taking the results that we have and zoned them in several, copper silver zonation, copper zinc silver zonation, manganese silver, lead zinc, different zonation patterns that can be compared to a large porphyry copper system in the western U.S. We may not have hit the big broad zones yet, but we're hitting the same zonation patterns, and we know we're at the top of the system. So the results that we received were from holes that were drilled anywhere from 800 to 1,000 foot depth. The deepest was 1,500, and most of those were angle holes. So we're really just catching the surface and testing the surface of what is potentially at depth. We're going to take the information that we have, the targets that we are able to generate, and go deeper on them. And we're going to try and find the higher grade copper shells around this porphyry intrusive system. And all this information is very valuable. But it certainly seems like the zonation patterns we see tells us to go to the south or southwest. We're drilling in that direction right now with the final holes. And then we have planned to drill in the future some of these fracture study targets that we've generated.
So one of the things that is interesting is when you look at the fracture studies that are in our presentation, and essentially what that is the geologists go to those areas and the fractures or the gouges or the cuts that are on surface, they take a sample. We had 15% copper on surface from some of those fracture cuts, and we've had 19 grams gold from some of those fracture cuts. And so to me that's really exciting because it follows that trend to the south, which is for us where it seems where we want to start trending and targeting some of those more ideal locations. When you think in general about this project, the mineral deposition just everywhere. You have the massive deposit next door at Hermosa, South 32, and then you have Peak, which is their copper target. I think Peak is going to be a really exciting target for them because they only have to drift about 740 meters from Taylor to access Peak. And Peak is right up beside our border. An arbitrary border or property line is drawn doesn't just stop mineralization. So we still are quite excited about the drilling to come.
Geophysical survey that we're going to be doing is a ZTEM survey. It's a big receiver that's hung from a helicopter, and they plan on flying, say, within less than 200 meters of the surface and get that information. We're going to have it processed for 2D version as well as 3D, so we can see to depth as well.
The historical drilling, the Barksdale drilling, the fracture studies, we've handed all of that data over to Verify, and Verify is going to use their DORA technology to not only build a model for us, but to help identify additional targets using their AI target generator.
All of these are tools that we're going to use to support, core drilling, which isn't cheap, and you want to be focused. You want to make certain you're drilling in the right spots, and hopefully intercept the mineralization at depth.
And if you think about too the step outs, they were big, 600 to 650 meter step outs with less than 24 holes drilled. So now being able to have a clear path forward with the information that did give us, and now being able to get to 67.5%, which was the main goal, now we'll be able to use that information to support that next drill program. You find those high grade veins to help you support the economics of the ocean of the lower grade copper, and that's what can make a deposit. So now we have to find those higher grade zones of mineralization.
There's metal content everywhere, and that's key to really determining whether you're in a big system or not, and we certainly are.